This is a clip from the Red Cow Arcade podcast.
Shall we talk about how much we love this Better Call Saul show? Because people don't know if we like it or not.
I mean, it's fantastic.
I think it's great.
Here's what I'm thinking you can do. What I was going to do was I was going to watch the first episode and the last episode because I didn't have time.
That would be
to watch
so
a whole
sad.
series.
I would feel bad for somebody who did that because there's what a journey between those two things to ruin it for yourself.
I don't know. I think that could be kind of interesting because what do you like get out of it and stuff. Anyway, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So sell me this show. Let's have
I can do that. Yeah, sure. Well, you watch Breaking Bad. You like Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about Breaking Bad?
Well, it was
well performed, well shot, well edited.
All I can think
a narrative thread.
It's good. Yeah, it had it kept you watching.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was the main thing I found with it. Is like you put it on, you couldn't. It was very engaging.
Yeah. Well, what this show is you have a few characters who already were very well established in Breaking Bad. So you're starting with dozens of episodes where you already know them. So that includes Saul, Mike, eventually Gus, eventually Hector Salamanca. You have this entire drug cartel, New Mexico thing that they've set up. So you have a great starting place. They blindside you with, we're going to tell the story of how that cartoon character Saul became, started as a human being and became that guy. And you're like, oh, that'd be interesting. And they only give 6 years of lead up. So they go back to like, if the beginning of Breaking Bad was 2008, it's 2002 is when we go back. And they're actually really good about keeping the technology, 2002 technology. Everybody's got Nokia phones and it's like right on. They're playing Rocky for GameCube, that kind of thing. Just in the background.
I'm in.
It's like Boyhood. Remember the Richard Linklater movie where they were playing Wii? There are plenty of cameos. Tuco's back and stuff, but the show is very much not about the cameos. It only will have one if it fits logically with the story that they're mounting. And so what they do, I think their approach is unlike, Breaking Bad did this as well, but Breaking Bad had something that this show didn't have, which was this guy is either going to get arrested, caught, or killed, or he's going to die of cancer. Like there was only like 3 or 4 things that could happen, and that was the logical end of the show. So it was like as soon as he started selling meth, like the timer went off, and it was just watching like, okay, when's the bomb going to go off? Basically, every episode felt like that. I think the other benefit of Breaking Bad was there was almost no such thing as a bad ending to that show. Almost anything could have happened. It would have made sense, and it probably would have been satisfying on some level, but they still did it masterfully because they had a lot of great characters and they followed those characters. So what this does instead of that, it doesn't have as clear of an end destination. The end destination theoretically is already known by us because we know the events of Breaking Bad. Although what I hear is that this final season of Better Call Saul is going to intersect with the Breaking Bad timeline a lot. And then it's going to extend beyond the Breaking Bad timeline. So it's sort of going to conclude both shows. But they instead introduce us to Jimmy McGill, who is not Saul Goodman. He's a con artist, or he grew up kind of a con artist. He's a flunky brother of a really respected lawyer. And he got he passed the bar almost as a lark. He wants to do like some civil suits. He got to know a more respectable lawyer when he was working in the mailroom at his brother's firm. She turns out to be a fascinating character, but his brother, who played by the amazing, oh my God, why can't I think of his name? It'll come to me later. The guy from Spinal Tap.
Why can't I think of his name either?
Michael
McKean.
Michael McKean. God damn. Alzheimer's.
I know. That's scary.
Yeah,
I got
scary.
I got like viral Alzheimer's from you.
I mean, I know him quite well. That's almost as close as being like EJ, NASA.
Nina
Let's just call her Nina.
Nina S.
He has some kind of like transient mental illness where at least it's not clear if he is allergic to electricity. He claims to be, but it's such an absurd, pathology that you're like, maybe not. So they just kind of set up this interesting set of circumstances. And also Mike Ehrmantraut, who we got to know really well in Breaking Bad, he was just sort of disgraced from the Philadelphia Police Department. He was enraptured in this horrible thing that happened where his son was killed. And so we're given like awesome motivation for Mike. Like it was all alluded to very well in Breaking Bad, and then they just confirm it. And so all of his sort of like, private detective stuff is well set up in this. And then what they do is they just follow the characters' motivations very closely, very carefully. If something happens to the character, they ask themselves, how would that affect a person in real life? And what would they likely do next? And based on the character traits we've set up, what mistakes are they likely to make? And it just kind of follows all of those things emotionally and logically. Not in an aimless way. I think some people would accuse the show of meandering at times. I always am very compelled because the show is constantly asking and then answering, like, how would this person feel about this? They would feel like, for instance, there's so many small things in the last 2 episodes, but like, Gus, extremely confident character in Breaking Bad and in this show, brilliant, 5 steps ahead of everybody. And he's thrown off of his game in these last few episodes. And he has this moment where he like drops a glass on the ground. And it's so like vulnerable for a guy like Gus would never like accidentally spill something. And then it's like, well, what would he do if he broke a glass? Well, like everybody has to sit there silently while he picks up the glass pieces and cleans it up, and the show always takes time to do that. And again, in these past few episodes, so they've set up a few new characters. There's Nacho and there's Lalo, which both were referred to by Saul in Breaking Bad. There were throwaway lines. It was when Walter White and Jesse had him at gunpoint. They were going to say, like, you have to represent us. And he goes, it wasn't me. It was Ignacio. Are you guys from Lalo? De Lalo? So he's just like throwing out names. Well, they've now built incredible characters around Nacho and Lalo. So Lalo is an uncle of the Salamancas. And between him, Ignacio, who's this guy who's an associate of the Salamancas, but he wants to get out and he like can't get out. He's just like trapped in this situation. Gus, Mike, all of them are like A-tier brilliant. They're all brilliant criminal minds. None of them are kind of ruled by their egos necessarily. There's not like a Walter White in the mix or a Jesse in the mix who's likely to do something to jeopardize everything. They're all master chess players. And the show doesn't like accidentally make one of them dumb just to make the plot move forward. And so, when they're all pitted against one another, you're just like, I have no idea what could happen because none of them would be caught unaware by each other, So you're just on the edge of your seat.
Seeing them all like, move their pieces. And then the show is just so deliberate. It's like, if I'm like unboxing like some furniture I have to assemble, I just like dump all the pieces out and just like start putting it together without even the instructions. Like these guys, like they open the box, they inspect every piece, they think about how that piece like functions inside the whole like table or whatever. And like, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful, the deliberate thoughtfulness in every single like camera movement. And they like, it's in their beautiful like camera movements and beautiful cinematography. And it never feels like a gimmick when they're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of technique and there's a lot of substance. So it's like a lot, sometimes you'll see a show that's really artfully made, but maybe it's kind of light on the emotional core. So, maybe it's more about mode than is about substance. And this just has both. It's like got really, really strong philosophy and and it tells the story visually and through performance moments and so if a great show is made by or a great visual story is made by cinematography, performance, direction, and writing, all of them are A+. Like none of them are like, oh, but this part sucks a little bit. Like, no. The actors you can tell how inspired the actors are to dig deeper with each season and with each episode. And then there's just little things like Jimmy pulls off scams because he's a con artist. The whole show, he pulls off scams. And the show never gives you again, characters that would be so dumb that they would fall for something simple. It always is a little bit more complex than it needs to be, just to make sure that it's believable and that or they give you characters that really are, like there's a criminal couple that he represents early in the show, and they're just obviously morons. And so the show has a lot of fun with the fact that they're morons, and like, a couple of morons would just be like doomed, with Saul. And there's even there's not, because you could say, okay, the point of the show is like, when does he become Saul? When's the moment that he's like, I am Saul, or something?
Put the helmet on his head.
It doesn't. You are Moon Knight. It doesn't.
Saul Goodman.
Like he introduces the name in like the first couple of episodes. That like he sometimes would use that as an alias, and then like by the third season he's using it just to produce commercials for himself, and then like by the fifth season he's practicing law as that name because he got banned from practicing law for like 9 months, so he came back as a different name. So it's not like he's like transforming into Saul. It's not like the split personality thing so much. It's more like the character's evolving and there's a name to memorialize that. And then I don't know if you've seen the first episode, you've probably seen they have been flashing forward the entire series to after the events of Breaking Bad, where he lives in Omaha, Nebraska working at a Cinnabon. And so they've followed him quite far. Like he's horrified. He's like a very weak, scared man. He's scared of everybody. He's paranoid. All of his powers have been stripped from him. And so they're juxtaposing that with who you're seeing now. And yeah, man, it's just filled with, it's so good in all of the ways that these things are supposed to be good, that it like reminds me of like, oh yeah, that's what they teach you to do, this sort of thing. And for some reason, nothing else does it.
What like my theory is of this is that, since it's pretty much like a lot of the core crew of Breaking Bad. Yeah. And when they did Breaking Bad, this prestige television thing was like reaching its like peak almost. And I feel like things were still small. Like you only had a few prestige shows. You had like Mad Men, you had Breaking Bad, you had Sopranos and stuff like that. But there was only like a few of them. And so now, since everyone has a streaming service, everyone is trying to recreate, another, Mad Men or another series like that. We got Stranger Things, we got everything. I think the talent is just spread thin. And these guys, this is kind of like a time capsule because I know some people have come and gone in their group, but I think they've kept that spirit going of Breaking Bad, and they've evolved it too. So it feels almost out of place. It does feel like it's out of place in the whole media landscape.
See, that's kind of the thing that when I heard they were making it, because like I like Breaking Bad, I like how it started, I like how long it went on for, and I like that one ended. And then you find out like there's a spin-out, that there's a spin-off show coming out, and it's kind of like Joey when Friends ended. It's like,
but sometimes you get a Frasier.
True, very rarely do you get a Frasier, but it's so it's one of those things for like, because he's not like an insignificant character in Breaking Bad, but it felt a little bit like, well, what's this about?
Yeah.
And now it's ran for as long, if not longer, than Breaking Bad. So it's kind of like, is it
6 seasons?
Yeah.
It seems like the promise of this show is, by the time you've seen it, you will have it will have enriched Breaking Bad a lot. I believe my theory is that we're going to learn kind of what Jimmy was doing during Breaking Bad, that Saul was a character to a large degree, which makes a lot of sense. And, they've made it into a jigsaw puzzle. And in that way, they've made Saul kind of like one of the central characters. Because unlike Walter White became kind of irredeemable, kind of fast. I mean, like by season 3, he was such a bastard, and you knew that his allegiances lied with his own ego, that like this guy is more evil than good, And so you were intrigued to watch him, but you knew that this was the villain, or this will eventually be the villain. That's still not the case with Saul. Like he's still, I think when he's a scumbag in Breaking Bad. In this, he's kind of more, you're more empathetic with him. It's more like he's kind of like a bullied person, somebody who's lived in the shadow of more successful, smarter people. And I don't think he wanted to ever hurt anybody. That's like, I think he just kind of wanted to make money in the cracks. He wanted to take advantage of the system. He wanted to fight authority. That is what kind of what you learn about the character is he wanted to fight authority, because he has a lot of opportunities in this show to become part of the authority, to work for respectable firms. And he always sabotages himself, because he can't not be the underdog. He wants to be, he sets up this entire Saul persona to be like, let's be the, let's put on a performance as the underdog. So it's very, very interesting. And I wonder too, because for me, the biggest question is Mike was such a great character in Breaking Bad. They disposed of him in I think a satisfying way, but in a way that was kind of like, really, like Walter White got it over on this guy. And they've given him so much more character and so many more scenes and moments with him. I gotta believe that they're gonna do more, at least with his family. They're gonna like take us beyond that moment, because we never get to see Kaylee Ehrmantraut, get her money or anything. So I think they're gonna pay more stuff off, and I love it a lot more than I love El Camino too. Because the thing that I can always say about Better Call Saul is they're always telling me something about the characters that I didn't know before. They're always advancing. And I thought El Camino kind of blew that opportunity. I thought I had a good opening with Skinny Pete and Badger, and seeing those three together again was kind of satisfactory for the audience. But after that, it's watching somebody sort through the logistics of an escape that that was already inferred, I thought.
Yeah. No, I again, we've had a conversation in the past about El Camino. I do like that film. I don't. It's not trying to do anything like big or special. It's like a coda. Here you go.
It would be an overstatement for me to say I don't like it.
Yeah,
because it's shot well. I love the characters. I want to spend more time with Jesse Pinkman. But there's, they had to invent new Nazi characters because they already killed the other ones. There's
Todd is fat.
Todd's fat, and that's
distracting.
It's extremely distracting. And Aaron Paul is quite old, and the bald cap on Walter White. It compromised a few. It was shot on digital instead of film. So it didn't have the same aesthetic as Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
this is shot on digital, but it has a consistent aesthetic, with itself. So I thought it was a very rare misstep, but it makes sense because it was Vince Gilligan, who I actually don't think is the creative genius behind these series. I think it's this Peter Gould guy.
He's not the Gilligoose.
I don't think he's the Gilligoose after all. The
golden Gilligoose. So you have to watch our animation.
Yeah, go watch it. It's one of the best things we've ever made. It's truly one of my favorite things.
Sorry, I didn't.
It's actually a cartoon.
I thought that was off the noggin.
No, we after this we're gonna make sure you watch Vince Gilligoose. Because I guess the episode Better Call Saul from Breaking Bad was written by Peter Gould, one of the writers, and then they let him be the showrunner on Better Call Saul. I think the first season of Breaking Bad is very good, but I think the first season of Breaking Bad is very Vince Gilligan. I like that pilot is kind of like an independent film by Vince Gilligan, and I think like the pilot of Breaking Bad has kind of a similar energy as El Camino, which he directed, and so the Better Call Saul guys had nothing to do with El Camino. I think the only thing was he consulted them and said, "Hey, should Jesse get arrested at the end of my movie?" And they were like, "No." That would be insane. But he was considering that apparently, and he was like, "Yeah, the Better Call Saul people talked me out of it."
It's good for the better, for the best.
Yeah, I don't know. El Camino is fine, but Better Call Saul is my jam. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that I like it better than Breaking Bad, because Breaking Bad is very special. Yeah, the characters are so strong. It comes together almost like a movie. We watched somebody make an effort to make a 2-hour version of it, and it was pretty commendable.
It's a good
exercise.
It's strange because it's because obviously you can feel what's missing.
Yeah,
but you'd see in it, just like being streamlined.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.